else can Brazil do? Because the number of deaths continue to be extremely high. If you could give us a little bit of a readout on the situation in Brazil at the moment, and whether the peak has already been reached, or this is very hard to predict. Thank you very much, Dr. Ryan.
Hi. Yes, the situation in Brazil has somewhat stabilized in terms of the number of infections detected per week. Certainly the intensive care units across Brazil are under less pressure than they were before. And when we look at the weekly incidence across many of the regions, the R0 or the R0 across the country has reduced. And the sort of acceleration of cases has stabilized, but there's still a very high number of cases in the order of 50 to 60,000 a day, and a large number of deaths. And you know, again, credit to the health workers and to the communities in Brazil for taking the necessary actions to stabilize the situation. The question is this a lull? Can this be continued? And can we see that downward trend? And there is a clear downward trend in many parts of Brazil, but there are also areas in which the disease is still very prevalent. It's still unstable in its transmission. So we're in that sort of difficult period in Brazil where things could look like they could be getting better, but it now requires a very, very strong and dedicated approach to drive transmission down. And to continue to protect the health system. Now, within those numbers, Brazil is a very big country. There are areas that are experiencing increases, but in general, the trend in Brazil is stable or downwards, and that needs to keep going because Brazil has been contributing a huge proportion of global cases in this pandemic for a long number of weeks and months now. And any success in Brazil is success for the world. Because if Brazil, countries like India, countries like the US and other large countries control the disease, then that's not just contributing to national numbers going down, but that will ultimately contribute to the overall impact of the pandemic being reduced. So still much to do in Brazil, but again, the health system continues to cope. The positivity rates are still higher than they necessarily should be, but the pattern is clear. The question is whether that pattern can be sustained in a downward direction in the coming weeks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ryan. So the next question goes to Michael from CNN. Michael, can you unmute yourself and go ahead with your question?
Sure. Thank you for taking my question. Greetings from Ottawa, Canada. I recently flew for the first